right now that are out there that are using the old verbiage like pro-white. And we've talked about this before. You might not have been here then. You might have missed that episode if you were with us. Verbiage like pro-white, white nationalist, all of this sort of stuff is part of the anti-white narrative. I never refer to myself as a white nationalist. I will never. It is in the lexicon of that story. It has a meaning beyond the meaning that you give it. This runs the same course as using the old symbols that you might cherish, the old governmental structures, the old economic structures. All of these things are in the anti-white narrative, and they mean a host of things that you do not mean, that you do not represent, that you do not advocate. And the argument has been there that I have given for a very long time, that our objective is to serve white well-being, not to advance a specific ideology, a specific governmental ideology, political ideology, sociological ideology, economic strategy, economic mechanism. Our objective is the well-being of our people. And so we have to only serve that. Therefore, if something has muddied an idea, an ideology, what have you, then we need to doff that thing and move forward with what works. Getting stuck on a particular thing, a particular symbol, a particular personage, a particular song, a particular this or that, because you feel an affinity for it, weakens you. It weakens our ability to spread white well-being. It causes folks to see you as a lot of other things that the anti-white has told them are representative of those items. And so it could jeopardize your safety because people could attack you for it, physically attack you for it. They could dox you for it. Now, yes, the anti-whites are going to do this, but you know what I'm saying. They're going to do that with everybody, but you know what I'm saying. You're going to be, the anti-whites find me a lot, I don't want to say a crude term, but I'm a lot less satisfying to harm than somebody who is waving particular banners and using a particular slogans and that sort of business. It's far more satisfying for anti-whites to go after those individuals than it is to go after me and those who are serving white well-being this way, because we are not the personification of the villain in their idiotic story. And that's what they're looking for, the villain in their story. So with all of that being said, the most important thing, even over our individual lives being jeopardized by using these antiquated things, is that before all of that, they don't work for white well-being. We are not gaining adherents. We are not gaining neophytes. We are not growing because of it using those old things. With this, we have a curative contagion. We're rapidly growing. That is the most important thing. But now you have this to worry about. Now you're going to go to jail. Now you're going to be investigated. Now we talked about this months ago when we had McAleenan talking about how the use of these words, identification with these certain ideas and etc., things like pro-white, things like white nationalist, all of that is now put on this, what did they call it? What was that list that they had for it? It was a list, something like violence or whatever the list was called. I think it was something violence. And once you're on that list, they connected that list. Now, it doesn't mean that you've done anything illegal yet. It means that you are using things that they believe, verbiage, symbols, and the like, that they believe are going to lead to racial violence and whatever else they're going to classify it. By getting on that list, they connected that list to things like no travel, no right of self-defense lists. Now we see with this Ray character, now we see that they are freeing up more resources. In other words, they're taking resources, the FBI, the anti-whites, the federal government, under the Republican president, Donald Trump. They're taking resources away, probably from fighting drug lords, probably from actual terrorists around the world, and using those resources on us by elevating us to the same threat level as ISIS. So if you were not one of the smart people who said, well, Jason's making a lot of sense. Yeah, these old ways, this old style of dress, and these old ways to wave, all of this doesn't work. And in fact, it just causes people to hate me for it. So I'm going to give it up. If you weren't one of those people, if you were one of the folks that said, screw Jason, I'm going to continue doing XYZ because I really love this. And by the way, I'll just also say that you cherish these things. And when you put them out before other people, you're throwing your pearls before swine. They don't see them as pearls. Why would you do that? So maybe not so bright, maybe a little short-sighted in that moment, not as an overall lack of IQ, but a childish decision. So, and that bright decision. So if you're one of those people that said, nope, still going to stick with these old ways, not going to listen to reason, logic, and evidence. Okay, you stuck with them. Then when I said, hey, look, now you're going to be put on this list by this Macallinan, and then you're going, and by being put on that list, you're now connected to the no travel and no self-defense lists. If you then said, nope, still going to stick with it, how about now? How about now? How many times do I have to talk about these things and say, don't use this stuff because you are going to end up in a bad way? There's so many. I'm not going to note all the different ways of all the different things that can go wrong for you. The most important thing is that we're not going to reach our brothers and sisters in time if you continue using these antiquated methods that lose. Religious sectarianism loses. Political ideology loses. Old political ideologies lose. Current ones lose. Talking about economics loses. All of that loses. All of it has been defeated by the anti-whites. A new flag loses. And the idea of begging in a Gilligander way, I mean, a Gilligan's way, you know, the wannabe Prince of Edward Island, expecting the anti-whites will treat you with fairness in some deluded idea that they just don't want to live among us. So they'll just give away a giant part of the, or even a small part of a country to you, is childish, psychotic, and asinine. Thinking that you're going to be able to secede and violently resist is childishly asinine. You are going to go to jail. That's all that's going to happen to you. And now we see, without question, and you know, maybe the sooner the better for those, because I guess the herd has to be culled, it's got to be thinned. And those people that are going to continue talking, you know, they talk about this group that was called the Base, and the group had undercover federal, undercover state, and undercover people working for foreign newspapers and things like this in the group. How many of them were actually folks from the community who cared about white well-being? I mean, this, of course, any of this may be true. It may all be false. Might be making it up right now. Who knows? Ask the scholars at YouTube. But maybe what we need to have happen is the government to go, yes, go arrest these people, because all of these people, all they end up doing is they end up getting used by the anti-white regime to prove to all of our brothers and sisters out there that, look, anti-white narrative is true. You know, we had a couple of guys that were going to supposedly start a race war at an all-white, you know, 99.9% white rally in Richmond, Virginia, and somehow they were going to start a race war. If those, the one guy or the two guys or whatever it was that weren't actually working for the government or for a foreign newspaper, if they had not involved themselves in something so asinine, then they could not have been used as scapegoats by the anti-whites elites in news and entertainment media. If they had learned from us, if somebody had gotten to them and said, look, man, you got to go free. Take off those dumb clothes. Stop talking that way. Cover up those tattoos. You know, put that stuff in a place that you consider sacred in your home and worship it there. Don't take it out into the public. You're going to go to jail, or you're going to be doxxed. You're going to lose your job. You're going to be physically attacked, or worse, the government is going to come get you and you'll be disappeared in the middle of the night and never seen again. And here's your Vaseline.